Hello, everybody, and I guess we're live, so nice to see you here. Glad to be here on this AMA session about Equilibrium's PLO. Again, you'll recall, if you've been following us, PLO abbreviates Perching Leasing Offering. So my name is Lesley. I'm responsible for business development and for customer success, and I'm here today with my CEO, Alex Melikhov. Alex, please introduce yourself.
Hi guys, thank you very much for joining us today. We're super excited to share all things PLO that we're currently conducting at Equilibrium. Today's call will be super practical because we want to basically cover most of your questions and some specific details on further steps that we will be taking in terms of our PLO. We will answer some particular questions that we have collected from the community, and definitely take questions from you guys. Thank you very much for participation. We want to make this call as much informal as possible. We have not been prepared any kind of slides for today's call, as we usually do for our community calls. And it will be some natural flow, some natural conversation. So maybe Lesley, can you give the overview of Kusama and Polkadot networks and some stuff related to our project?
Let me first maybe just tell you what the agenda is, so that even if we don't have slides, we do have an agenda. We just want to cover some basic things that we think you might have missed to date. We want to stress those points. And of course, as Alex said, answer the things that are relevant for you from a user's perspective right now. So the first thing we're going to talk about is we're going to review again quickly the difference between the the Polkadot and the Kusama Perching networks. We're going to tell you what our PLO strategy is, referring to the Polkadot network, give you an update on what's going on with the token swap right now, which is underway, answer some frequently asked questions that have been repeating in the chats, tell you what the next steps are, tell you about what we're planning for Kusama, and then go into the Q&A session. And the Q&A will include, as Alex said, both your live questions and also questions that we have already collected. So let me tell you a little bit again, what is the difference between the Polkadot and the Kusama Perching networks. So once again, if you don't know this already, Equilibrium is planning to do both of them. They are both full-fledged networks. They will be coexisting in parallel to one another, and neither of them is a test net. They are both following the Rococo testnet, which we have already done and which we've confirmed. We know that it works. We know that our technology works, and we have decided to do both of these Perching networks at the same time and continue the projects on them, not just one. Try one and then close it and start the next, but do both of them simultaneously. The reason is because they offer different technical possibilities, and as such, we're going to have a different, unique set of products on each of these Perching networks. So the Kusama network is more experimental than Polkadot. It also offers a wider range of possibilities. So we're going to be offering there more digital derivatives, which are very similar in some ways to the classical financial market derivatives like gold, stocks, and exchange-traded funds. We're also going to have a range of tokens which go beyond what will be on Polkadot later, and it's going to have a focus on the Ethereum ERC20 tokens, and we will be featuring a minimum C ratio collateralization rate of only 100% on the Kusama network. All of this is going to launch soon as we win a Perching on the Kusama network, which is going to be auctioning first. So stay tuned for that. All of the product development is done, and we're very excited about that. The Polkadot network is the classical, more advanced network in terms of its technical capabilities. It will have not such a wide range, but we're hoping that all the bugs will be cleared up by then. And we are going to be doing that as the next step after Kusama, but parallel to it. So Kusama will be continuing. And I would like to have Alex now give us a short overview of the PLO strategy, okay, which relates to the Polkadot network, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will try to be as short as possible, because I believe that most of you are already familiar with our PLO strategy. Just to remind you, we have two phases in place. The first one is the token swap, which is ongoing right at the moment. You still can submit your dots in order to get EQ tokens. The swap rate that we have set for this swap is 1 EQ token equals 0.07 dots. So the hard cap for the swap is 250,000 dots. So we already reached the hard cap. We'll stress that as well, but we still continue receiving deposits. We're doing this consciously. I think Lesley will say a few words about that. So we have collected quite substantial whitelist, which actually includes several thousands of participants. For this stage, the KYC procedure is obligatory because all the funds that are collected through this swap are managed by the custodian, which is Copper. Copper is quite reputable custodian based in the UK, regulated over there. And besides Copper, we have Signum Capital in place. They are one of the well-known ecosystem funds. They are investing in many prominent projects and also recently invested in Equilibrium as well. They kindly committed to participation on the multi-signature in the multi-signature permission structure on our wallets and the custodian, and basically we cannot withdraw or transfer funds from our custodian address without approval from both Copper and Signum Capital, which makes things very transparent and safe in terms of funds management. The token swap, just also to remind you, is risk-free because its participants basically can swap their EQ tokens back for dots at the end of the lease period. And so for that, they need to submit EQ tokens back, but they can obviously leave the bonus with them that they receive on the swap. Regarding the bonus structure, the maximum bonus that participants can get is 25%. It happens if they swap over 10,000 dots and committing to 2 years lease period. And what's maybe very important here, very practical, has very practical implication. So basically, we are collecting sort of votes from token swap participants. They are choosing between 1 year and 2 year lease period. So basically, this is the periods while their dots will be locked, and at the end of this period, they can basically do the reverse swap and execute this right on the reverse swap. So Lesley will also share some statistics on that, some details. So with regards to the second phase of our PLO, it's more or less standard. It's the crowd loan, which is basically offered by the majority of projects on Polkadot. We have set the hard cap for the second phase at 750,000 dots, additionally to the swap. The date for the crowd loan yet to be announced. It's actually, like expectedly, it will be kicked off as soon as the Perching auctions arrive at Polkadot. And it's obviously the mechanics when users are contributing their dots, locking in the crowd loan module, and eventually getting the interest in utility token of the project, in our case in EQ tokens. And this mechanics is also risk-free because all the participants, they are basically getting their dots back at the end of the crowd loan. Maybe the last thing that I wanted to mention here, there were some questions from the community with regards to why we are conducting the first phase even before the launch of auctions on Polkadot. I should admit that it was done intentionally because we actually, like the strategy that we're stick to presumes that we will not be winning just one slot, right? Whether it's 1 year or 2 years, and eventually we end up seeking for the next slot, leasing of the next slot. And by collecting these funds, we assume that EQ tokens will perform well, and there will be no need for the reverse swap for the majority of the participants.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, and we will keep with I apologize, something wrong with the lighting here. Sorry about that. So I just wanted to mention that we expectedly will end up with 250,000 dots that we will be using for the next bids in the next auctions. I'm giving over to Lesley. She will give some updates with numbers on the current state of the token swap.
Yeah. So first of all, let me just give you an overview of what's going on. So as you probably know, if you've participated or if you're following this, the token swap is ongoing now. It started just a few days ago on the 12th, and actually already yesterday on the third day, it has reached the nominal hard cap of 250,000 DOT. However, I want to stress something here, especially because I see that this is a question that's been coming up now in the chat right here. We will consciously keep the swap open until the 25th of April as originally planned. And there's a good reason for this. And it's not to make you use your gas for nothing. Okay, there's a very good reason for this. The reason is that this swap is also a voting process. And as you know, if you've been following this, and if not, you've heard what Alex has already said today and reiterated, is that the swap will be decided, the leasing period will be decided by the result of the vote. So in other words, everything depends on that. And what I want to say in this connection is that the vote means that with your DOT, when you pledge your DOT, you can opt for a 1 or a 2 year leasing period, and the majority vote wins. Right now, even though we've reached the nominal hard cap, we have a tie between 1 and 2 years, and very important point, at the same time, not only do we have a tie, but a large amount of the white list has not yet voted. So what this means is that we have a lot of room open until the 25th of the month, and we will deliberately keep that swap open as originally planned until the 25th, when it closes and everyone will have had a chance to vote, okay? And only that will decide the outcome, because even if you've already participated, you don't know yet, we don't know yet, based on the current situation, which option is going to prevail, okay? We're only going to see that at the end of the day, after everyone has a chance to vote. And this is the reason why we are inviting you, and not just inviting you, but encouraging you to keep, if you haven't participated yet, to come in and still do it. It definitely makes sense, because not only can you influence the leasing period, but connected to that, you still have a chance to get in on the deal, even if you see that the nominal hard cap has been reached, because that doesn't really mean anything. What it means is that it's non-decisive at this point, and we don't know yet which part of the people who have pledged for that are going to actually end up being part of it or not. So I hope that makes sense. Otherwise, you can ask some more questions at the end. I'd like to give you some statistics now. So right now, what we've got is an average pledge of about 236 DOT per person, again, on average, and an average bonus of 406 EQ per person. At the same time, we've got only a very few quote-unquote whales, and actually we know for a fact that those are not whales, but they are investment funds that we have been negotiating with before the swap started. So we have 4 that have pitched in more than 60,000 DOT, and 2 that have contributed a little bit over 40,000 DOT. So in fact, what this means is that some concerns that have been expressed also in the social media earlier are groundless. There are not any whales, or hardly any, unless you count those funds. But for that matter, we have a lot of support from the community, and that's really great. So we're very appreciative of that, and want to thank you for that. And I hope it's clear why you should continue voting until April 25th. Let me tell you about the next steps beyond that. So after the swap closes, on April 26th, we're going to tell you the results of the majority vote. And we're also going to release a new PLO user interface, which is going to make the statistics visible to you so that you can see for yourself. And also not only that you can see for yourself, but that you can reach a decision. Because if you end up being in the minority vote, you'll have the option to decide to opt in or out, and also to confirm the address, okay, that you will use. On May 3rd, which is 7 days later, we're going to give you that option to withdraw or opt out or continue, okay? And let me stress something here very important. If you're in the minority voters, okay, and you're silent, in other words, you don't tell us that you want to opt out, then we're assuming that you're opting in, which means that your dot that you have pledged will continue on to be used for the bidding in the auction. Of course, the majority voters, that goes without saying, that will happen for them. And all of those who continue on to the bid, in other words, your pledges will be continuing on for the bid, will at that point on May 3rd get your EQ from the swap and also the bonuses, if applicable, that are due to you. And that includes, by the way, not just the bonuses for the amount of your pledge, but also the bonuses for any referrals that you might have done. I should also stress something very important here, which relates to what I was explaining before about the logic of keeping the swap open for the original length of the time until the 25th. We will have certain prioritizations and filters in place to determine whose pledge is actually counted. And this is something which I hope that you actually know and can anticipate, because we've mentioned it several times. Obviously, again, the first thing that this swap achieves is a vote. So the majority voters will be prioritized. Obviously, the minority will not. And within that majority vote, we're going to look first at who is a member of the white list. Again, the white list, as you know, is something that we opened well in advance of the swap with the KYC. And that is, again, something that, of course, has to take priority within the majority voters. If we have still, at that point, reached the hard cap, while we still have more white list participants who have pledged, then the next and third filter will be first come, first served. So whoever is in the majority vote and a white list member who has voted first, okay? So that's the logic of it. And once again, I'm still telling you that you need to participate if you haven't done so yet and you're interested, because, again, the outcome, since it's tied right now, can go either way, okay? It's not sure yet. And again, there's a large amount of whitelisted participants who have not yet participated, so there's definitely a chance for you. We want to also inspire you to take the trouble to log into your account and check your notifications if you have already participated, to see if your vote has been recognized. And you will be able to see there if you can, if it makes sense for you to add your vote again. Okay, you do have that option. And I'm going to hand it over to Alex, who's going to tell you about some of the most frequently asked questions that we've been seeing popping up in the chats. And this is in addition to the other questions that we've gathered, but these are the ones that I think will interest most of you. So Alex, take it away.
Sure. So we've been receiving quite substantial amounts of questions after we launched the token swap. They were mostly related to our user interface and the particular user experience with that. Definitely, there were some certain drawbacks of that interface, which were already have been fixed. And for now, everything looks really slick. So in terms of the particular questions, we have actually collected some most frequent of them, the most common for our community members. And let me highlight some particular ones one by one. So the first kind of batch of questions that we have been receiving was related to the representation of data in the user interface and user profiles related to the indication of balance and bonuses for the particular profiles. Some of users were complaining that they didn't see the number with their bonus or with their balance. So in terms of that, we have basically certain advices, like what exactly they need to do in order to start basically seeing these balances. So first of all, this problem usually occurs if you are transferring dots from some accounts without using our user interface, and these accounts are not. So we cannot basically link these transfers with your accounts because your blockchain addresses are not linked with your profile in our accounting system. So what we actually can suggest here, you need to go into the settings section in the interface, click on the icon near your profile name, and there will be the drop down where you can add new addresses. So you need to add the addresses or the address from where you've been transferring funds from, and then the balance and the bonus will appear in your interface. It will actually, this quite simple action will solve the most of the problems with displaying your particular data regarding your contributions in the interface. So if you still experience any kind of problems with that, please reach out to us at any time, and we will definitely consider that case by case. So another question was related to where users can see their bonuses from the whitelist, respectively 1%. So basically, the number with bonuses reflects the overall bonus you received on the swap, including the bonus for whitelisting. And there is the icon with the question sign. You basically can click on that, and there will be the drop down which will give you the breakdown of your bonuses. And there you will find the number of your bonus from the whitelist. So some of questions were related to transfers from the exchange. So basically, some of users, fortunately, a few of them transferred tokens like DOT tokens directly from exchanges. And in this case, we really please everyone who did that reach out to us. We need to identify your transfers. I mean, we will need to reach out to your exchange. You just need to provide us with the transaction hash and the name of your exchange. We'll reach out to this exchange ourselves to have the confirmation that you actually transfer these funds from the particular accounts, because most of exchanges have just liquidity pools, holding funds on just one accounts, which represent the pool, and doing their own internal accounting across their users. So we need to figure out that particularly your accounts initiated this withdrawal from the exchange, and then we will link these transfers to your account as well. So we will do that case by case. Please reach out to us as soon as you recognize that you have this problem. So another question was related to how you can directly send funds from the addresses that are not tied to your KYC accounts. So in this case, you need to do basically the same that you did to have your balance and bonus showed up. So basically, you need to link your address with your KYC accounts. In order to do that, you need to click on the settings section, the icon near your profile name, and in the drop down there will be the button for adding your account to your profile. So I think that that's pretty much it in terms of questions, like frequently asked questions in our community with regards to interfaces. Maybe the last thing that I wanted to cover in the course of this sort of presentation is our plans for Kusama auctions and participation in Kusama parachain auctions. I think that it's something really interesting to the community as well. We partially covered that in the course of our community call last time. So yes, we are going to participate in Kusama auctions. We will be basically winning the slot there. So the network we have called the network on Kusama Jinshire. So Jinshire will be sharing the experimental spirit of Kusama. We'll be rolling out our new products firstly on our Jinshire network. It will have more experimental set of the initial parameters. Lesley already mentioned that, and it will be. I think this kind of setup will be really interesting to traders who are taking more risks rather than average traders. Again, it will be all about the experiments, right? So we think that this kind of bold DeFi one-stop shop will bring a lot of value to the Kusama community. So in order to win the parachain slot on Kusama, we'll be going for the crowd loan mechanics as well. We'll be seeking for 100,000 KSM tokens. We assume that this will be enough to basically win the parachain slot on Kusama. We will be basically bidding for 6-month parachain lease period there, and according to the crowd loan mechanics, our contributors in the PLO and Kusama will be getting our Jinshire tokens basically as a staking reward. So for EQ tokens, we also have something very interesting to share because basically we will be announcing more details shortly, but in broad strokes, EQ holders will be able to claim Jinshire tokens as well, and it will be a decent bonus to their holdings on our parachain, which will be on our substrate, basically, which will eventually become the parachain on Polkadot. So the idea behind these mechanics will be also quite innovative. So it will be similar to lock drop. So eventually it will be lock drop, right? Because we'll offer EQ holders to lock their vested EQ tokens for 3 months, and against this sort of stakes of EQ tokens, they will getting Jinshire tokens in the proportion of 10 Jinshire tokens per 1 EQ token. So there will be also certain bonus structure introduced for those who will be locking their EQ tokens earlier than others, and we'll be announcing these particulars behind these mechanics pretty soon. Stay tuned.
So before we open up the Q&A, let me just add here some information to the chat so that you can see here some of the resources. I hope it's going to fit in there. It doesn't seem to want to send so many. I'm going to do this in 2 steps now because it's not going to send it all otherwise. So bear with me for 1 moment. And I will send you some links, and then we're going to go straight into the questions. And I think we're going to start with the questions, by the way, that are in the actual question chat room, and then we're going to, it's not letting me send this, okay. All right, I'll do it a little bit later. Let's look first at what we've got here in terms of the questions that are already been asked. So it's blocking the system here. Technical issues. Okay, so Alex has answered some of these, but not all of them. So the ones that Alex has answered, I'm not going to repeat here. I'm assuming you can see them. So I'm calling out to Jason Yue that you can see what Alex has written. If you haven't already noticed that. The next one we've gotten is also from Jason, but it's not been answered yet, I think. If I'm not mistaken, for the Perching slot auction on Polkadot Rococo testnet, EQ did not win a slot. How do you ensure you can get one in the first or even second round? So this is a question to Alex. I understand you've got all of that behind us already.
Absolutely, yes. I actually answered this question as well, but just to repeat the answer. So we actually did win the auction on Rococo, and we actually won the slots there. Maybe the one thing that I wanted to mention, that we are not going to participate in the very first auctions because we think that they will be heavily overpriced. I think that we'll be aiming for maybe third, maybe fourth auction, but the concrete decision obviously has not been made yet. It will depend on the dynamics and overall activity around auctions. But we feel that with this community support that we feel in the course of this swap, so basically this swap was sort of testing the water, how exactly it will work out. We feel that we have a very strong community support, and we think that with such level of the community support, we definitely will manage to get the slot both on Kusama and Polkadot. And actually taking the advantage of being here, I actually wanted to thank all of our community who contributed to our token swap and for keeping up with us.
Okay, so the next question has also been answered by Alex. So this is from Philip Charles, so please have a look. And then we've got one without an answer yet. What are the timelines for the actual parachain auction? Is phase 2 going to already be the native parachain auction? So the timelines, we don't know yet because, well, we know that they're going to be probably I think 4 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, but they haven't been announced yet, right? So we're waiting for Polkadot to announce those dates. And of course, we intend to start immediately. So as soon as Polkadot gives the go-ahead, we will announce that to you as well, and we will start that. And yes, when we speak about PLO phase 2, we do mean the auction. So let's see, the next one, Alex has also answered. I don't know who that is from, but this is about the institutional investors. Then we've got Roman, who also asked a question. Alex, answer that. Please have a look. We've got a question from Alex, and that has not yet been addressed. So that is, if I swap dots on the on our user interface, the PLO.equilibrium.io site, but from the address it starts with 1, okay? An address, I don't know what you mean with success for the KYC, to an address that starts with 1 but not 5, is that normal? Alex, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, we've been receiving a lot of questions regarding the address formats. As you know, Polkadot has different formats of addresses in the network. Some of them are related to the Polkadot relay chain itself, some are related to parachains with different prefixes. So I should mention that eventually it's the same address, but in different representation. And in our internal accounting system, we are obviously transforming all the addresses to the standard one, to the standard format. So definitely will not miss your contribution and your whitelist participation. We definitely can match that. So I don't think that it's the problem. And this basically, again, this is the frequently asked question. I think that it's good that you raised that, and we had a chance to address that.
And I see another one here. What will happen if Equilibrium loses an auction? Where will you deploy then? Is there an alternative? So like we said, we're assuming that we might have to try the auction several times, that we won't win the first time that we try. So we are planning to do the auction for a period of 5 months and try and get a parachain in that time. That should be a reasonable time in order to get one, because we've been planning this very carefully. And we have, in fact, planned quite conservatively in terms of the amount of funds that we are ready to deploy for this. So hope that answers that question. I see that somebody has asked here, is there an email address to reach out for tech issues? We would ask you to please write in our official Telegram channel, and then we will answer you either directly there or redirect you. So that is the best forum to do that. And as you can see here, Alex has sent it to you. We have collected some questions earlier, which I'd like to address right now.
Lesley, look, here's maybe one more question in the Q&A section. Okay. So the guy, Dillian, he is asking, do whitelist participants in the minority lease option retain their precedence over non-whitelist participants in the majority? Yeah, this is a good question. So again, we'll be sorting the list of all the participants according to their participation in the whitelists, and obviously those who are whitelisted will have the priority over all other participants who were not whitelisted.
Right.
Regardless their the lease period they have chosen. And again, so there will be 1 week starting April 26th when all of you will be making decision whether you're joining the majority or not. And so we'll be making a decision regarding the particular list of participants who eventually will be invited to come in, depending on the decision of those who actually want to opt out.
Right. And I would just like to say something about the ones who are not whitelisted yet, okay? Even if you're not whitelisted and you haven't yet participated in the swap, it still makes sense to do so, because right now there's still a lot of room for people to participate. And if we don't end up having really a huge amount of whitelists still coming in, there might be capacity for use. So it still makes sense to try it. So let's go now to the questions that we've collected from earlier. Will you consider the DOT that we use to swap EQ, or will we have to stake extra DOT? Now, I'm not exactly sure about the context of this question, but what I'm assuming is that you mean if the DOT you swap in the token swap will be used for the auction if you're in the minority vote, okay, in the majority vote, okay. This is if this is what you're referring to when you say staking, as opposed to how we will use the DOT in the swap. So again, the DOT that you swap in the token swap will be used for the auction if you're in the majority vote, but you'll only get the bonuses from the swap itself, okay, for those DOT. If you want to get the rewards from the auction, which are a different reward mechanism, then you need to participate in that auction as well, separately, and stake extra DOT. So I hope that I've interpreted your question right and that this is what it means. Then I see another one. When will it be possible to stake EQ? Is there any estimated APR? I'm going to give this one to Alex.
Yeah, in terms of EQ staking, again, we will have two options on the table. So firstly, simultaneously with launching EQ and locking them for transfers, we will launch the business logics of our platform on our substrate. So basically the idea that you will have the opportunity to stake your EQ tokens in our bailout pools, and there will be the liquidity farming program introduced from the day one after we go into production. So we expect to go into production in May, almost after we finalize the results of our .EQ token swap, the first phase of our PLO. And what's important here, that the APY that you can expect from staking your EQ tokens in the bailout pool will be roughly 40%, around that. And in terms of other options that you have, you basically will be able to stake your EQ tokens for basically for 3 months, and get our Jinchira-based tokens in the respective amounts. So this is another opportunity for staking. Yeah, I think this is a pretty much comprehensive strategy for staking that we'll be rolling out as soon as we go into production. So I see here that Good Life is asking us to address some questions from, I believe, Q&A section. I should admit that I answered most of them in written. If you want us to cover that now, maybe you can drop these questions into the chat, because I really don't know which questions you're referring to.
Yeah, we've really addressed all of the ones either in writing, or that we haven't had a chance to answer in writing. We addressed them orally. So please repeat which question interests you. And you can
Right.
just copy it from the ask a question, and then we'll be happy to reiterate that and also clarify if something still is unclear. So in the meantime, while you're looking for that, let me take the questions that we've still got gathered here from our earlier collection. And I see after the leasing period, can we swap back 50% of our EQ, for example, instead of swapping back all? Alex, what is your call?
So sorry, can you please repeat the question? I'm sorry.
The question is that after the leasing period, okay, after the Perching leasing period, can we swap back, for example, 50% of our EQ instead of swapping back everything?
Yeah, this is a real good question. So we initially were planning that the whole allocation of EQ tokens can be swapped. However, thanks for bringing this up. We'll definitely consider an option to swap your allocation partially. This is a good point.
Okay.
So we basically need to figure out whether it's possible, technically speaking, because again we are working with the custodian, with the third party, basically, and with Signum Capital, who are responsible for all the withdrawals. We just need to make sure that all these calculations will be not overcomplicated. Because if you're contributing the whole amount of EQ tokens and expecting to get the whole amount of DOT tokens back, I think that like it's definitely way simpler than some partial swaps and whatsoever. But again, we need to double check with them whether it's possible or not, and make a certain decision around that.
Okay, then we've got another one here. Are you going to be putting your Treasury or VC investment money into the crowd loan for the Perching lease? So there will not be any EQ from the Treasury going into the crowd loan. Because we have obviously been planning this very carefully from the beginning, and we've allocated already 10% of our total EQ token distribution for the PLO, so that is there. And in addition to that, we do in fact have funds from VC funds that will go towards winning a Perching leasing slot. In fact, in that connection, let me just address your, alert your attention to it. You might have seen that we had an article recently in Cointelegraph about a recent round that we did, investment round, that was specifically for this purpose. And we're very proud that we got a whole range of tier 1 venture capital funds who participated in that. And they are mostly Polkadot backers and really quite well-known funds like Signum Capital, KR1, Hypersphere Ventures, others like a fund that is connected closely to the OKX exchange. It's called Block Dream Fund, Genesis Block Ventures, CMS Holdings, AU21 Capital, DFG Capital, and many others. So this is definitely something that is planned and that we are going to be doing. And I think there's a question that has appeared now in the chat here. The value of EQ was set long ago to 0.07 dot. That has been based on a much lower dot value. Don't you think that the project is getting overvalued once the EQ tokens get on the market with the risk of a big fall in value? Alex, what do you say to this?
Yeah, first of all, we're not in a position to give any kind of investment advices and comment on particular token price, unfortunately. However, just maybe you can take into consideration that the DOT ecosystem, in terms of its market cap, actually performed very well in the latest times, and obviously we've been sort of revisiting the valuation for the token multiple times, in given this sort of significant price movements. But eventually we think that the valuation which was set for the swap makes sense, because first of all, again, this is risk-free mechanics, right? Because you actually have the option for the reverse swap. So it's basically not the token sale. You're participating in some mechanics, which is again risk-free, and you have this sort of rights on the reverse swap, which can be executed at the end of the lease period, which is hedging you against any kind of sort of underperformance of the EQ token. And maybe what else I wanted to mention in this relation. So, like imagine that there is an approach for valuation of the bulk Perching projects, which is quite common on the market. So consider that Polkadot has certain market cap, right? Like per se 44 billions as for now. And there's just hundreds Perching slots available, right? It means that roughly speaking, the initial market cap for the projects which is going to receive the Perching slots will be calculated as the market cap of Polkadot divided by the number of Perchings. So in the current circumstances, it's 44 billion divided by 100, which comes to 440 million of rough estimation for the market cap of Perching-based projects. You can do your own calculations and compare that to what we are currently offering on this current token swap. And I think that you eventually figure out that the numbers are quite reasonable.
Okay. Next question we've got, will EQ be distributed to swap participants only if the project wins a Perching auction, or even if it does not win a Perching auction? And the answer to this is that you will, of course, only get to keep your EQ if Equilibrium does win a Perching slot. Otherwise, of course, your DOT are going to be returned to you, and we will get our EQ back in exchange. So again, let me just reiterate the procedure here. It's that at the end of the token swap, so after April 25th, when we know if you're in the majority vote or not, and if your DOT are going to be going on to the bidding or not, the decision will be taken on that. And after that, we're going to have a 5-month period during which we're going to be trying to get a Perching leasing slot in the auctions. Obviously, if we're unable to win one, the swap user's DOT will also be returned to them in the amount originally swapped, and we get back our EQ. So that's the mechanics on that. Now we have a question: Are you only collecting 250,000 DOT, or any additional amount will also be taken and tokens distributed? So this refers and then there's a further question. Is there a chance that some of my DOT will be swapped and some not? Actually, again, it's a little bit, I think, a misunderstanding here. So basically, 250,000 DOT is only the hard cap for the token swap, okay? That's not for the whole PLO, and it's not for the bidding. The total hard cap for the PLO, as Alex has said, is 1 million DOT, and 750,000 is the hard cap for the phase 2 for the auction.
Look, Lesley, here's the question in the Q&A section, which is coming from Rado, and they're asking whether there is. So basically, in nutshell, the question is, what's the reason behind the current contribution to the token swap if we already basically reached the hard cap? So the answer is pretty straightforward. So first of all, maybe you're not that familiar with the current procedure. Again, the idea behind the swap that we will figure out the demands of the community, whether they want to bid for 1 year or 2 year leasing period. And currently, all the participants are selecting between 1 year and 2 years. So at the end of the swap, we'll figure out what's the decision made by majority, whether they contributed DOTs for 2 years or for 1 year. And those who actually followed the minority, we will asked to make a decision whether they opt out or they join the majority. And we think that at this stage, some of them will be withdrawing their dots from the token swap, and there will be some room for those who contributed basically into the oversubscription of this sort of PLO round. So from this perspective, it makes a lot of sense from our standpoint. And basically, here's another coin side of that. There are whitelisted participants, the participants of our whitelist who have not yet participated in the token swap. And we think it would be unfair to close deposits right now, because I'm assuming that some of them are still considering their participation in the swap, and the particular dates set for the swaps were between 12th of April and 25th of April, right? So we still think that we need to give them the opportunity to participate in the swap. However, given the current dynamics of deposits, we don't think that, like, particularly whitelisted participants will make huge impacts on the outcome of the swap. So from this perspective, it actually makes sense to participate both for those who are in the whitelist and who are not there. Hopefully I addressed your question and shed some more light on that.
Yep. We've got a whole bunch of questions left, so I hope we're going to have a chance to get through them.
Lesley, sorry for interrupting. I also basically toss a link to the latest article on Medium, which is describing this particular case, why we are not closing deposits. If you guys want, you can go through the article, which is maybe even more detailed than my explanation.
Yeah, I think it's actually one of the ones that I already sent, but go ahead. That doesn't hurt to repeat it, then people will know exactly which one you're referring to. Okay, so the next one we've got, and I like this question because I feel very passionate about this question. The question is, how do we know that you're not a scam? Well, first of all, I want to keep my good sense of humor and thank you for your vote of confidence. But aside from that, I want to tell you in all seriousness that if you don't know yet that we're not a scam, then it will probably be hard to convince you. But nonetheless, I do want to try and count the ways to let you recognize, hopefully, that we are legitimate. So, and I'm very happy to address this question nonetheless because I feel very sure about it. So let me go for that. So obviously, we're one of the most active projects on Polkadot. And if you know anything about blockchain, then you know that projects that are scams do not build, whereas we, like I said, are one of the most active. So that's a good sign. Also, beyond that, we go above and beyond just building your own product, and have actually already received 2 grants from the Web3 Foundation, which is a core element of Polkadot, to build instruments which serve the interests of the whole DeFi Polkadot ecosystem, which is also a sign that we're legitimate. Also, our team has been working together for years, and our CEO, Alex, who is here with me on the call, is a serial entrepreneur who's been working successfully on a number of projects, including Nitrogen, EOSDT, and Changely. If you've been following us, you probably know that. So that definitely also counts for us. We're backed by Parity and Web3 Foundation, which are the key entities behind Polkadot. We also have several top individuals from Polkadot who are advisors. As I mentioned earlier, we've just closed a private investment round with major tier 1 venture capital funds. And they have also done, not only have they voted for us, their vote of confidence by investing, but they've also done due diligence with us. And let me tell you from experience, because that's something that I'm heavily involved in, it's very hard to convince them because the due diligence process is quite daunting. So getting through that is also says something positive for us. Also, we're strict about compliance as it applies to this industry, and it does partially apply to the industry, even if people say that crypto is still a sort of gray space. For example, we require you to do KYC, and we also are required to comply to industry typical AML or anti-money laundering policies. And that's something that we have to do with all the entities that we work together with, whether it's funds or exchanges or custodians, etc. We also have our own AML policy. We practice a policy of transparency in our communication. We openly communicate regularly. We share our news with our community, as we're doing right now. Thank you, by the way, for giving us these questions and the opportunity to give you feedback and for being involved. Another example of transparency is that we are using the custodians in the swap right now, and the gatekeeper, by the way, who Alex has also mentioned. And they are the ones who are managing not only the actual collection of your DOT, but also they're making sure that we cannot withdraw those funds autonomously, okay? In fact, we can only instigate, but they are the ones who actually execute. And so this is what the multi-sig procedure is about. So I hope that answers your question, and that helps to shed some light on this. I think it should be relatively clear, but again, that's my opinion, and I don't want to influence you. I just want to be objective. So let's see. We have some more questions here, and one of them is, just check the time. One of them is, I think I'm going to put this to Alex. How will sufficient liquidity upon initial listing be guaranteed? Is liquidity farming part of this, or will this only be introduced after the initial listing?
So I think you're basically mixing up two things: liquidity on exchanges for the token and liquidity in our platform. So in terms of like bootstrapping liquidity on the platform, we do have a comprehensive strategy around that, which includes obviously the liquidity farming and arrangements with major liquidity providers who are keen on liquidity provision into our protocol. We also as you know, we have recently closed the investment rounds with the participation of quite major and influential ecosystem funds, including, for example, CMS, DFG, FBG, AU21, Kier 1, Hypersphere, Genesis Block Ventures, BNYX, and many others. And we obviously think that they will be also of help to bootstrap liquidity as well. And we obviously have been talking to them about that as well. So with regards to like the second part of your sort of question, or what exactly maybe you have in mind, like in terms of liquidity on the exchanges, we definitely have certain arrangements with market makers, and definitely will be supporting this liquidity as well. Okay, so in terms of like the token launch, we also have the quite thought out strategy, and I think that we'll be announcing this strategy very soon as well, because we are aiming to launch the token again in May.
Okay, let me see here. So then we have a question: why choose the PLO, which is more likely than the ICO with price protection? This question is a little bit unclear, but I'm reading it to mean why we're choosing to do a PLO over an ICO. And the answer is very simple. We don't believe in ICOs, and we're not planning any ICOs. Our token is a utility token. It's not an investment in itself. So we obviously are planning to become a parachain, and so we are participating in the PLO. Because in order to become a full-fledged member of the Polkadot ecosystem, you need to be a parachain. And for this, we've designed the token swap, PLO Phase 1, as part of the strategy. And the logic of that is evident. Alex already mentioned it. It's to establish a foundation for the bidding in the crowd loan, which will come later in the next step. So that, I think, hopefully should be clear. And I see a question here, which I'm going to give to Alex, and I'm not sure if we might have touched on this or a related issue earlier, but let's just see. The user is asking, I registered with a different whitelist address than my connected one. I then provided additional information needed to have my connected address changed to become the whitelisted one. However, there's no confirmation from the team that my connected address was changed as the whitelisted one as of now. Is this something I should worry about?
I think I know which guy this question is coming from, because I personally have been communicating with him, and actually I confirmed in the chat that we have his requests. We've done certain actions. We even confirmed that he owns the email address he dropped to me, and like, I don't know which other confirmations you require from us on top of that. So, like, verbally, I can confirm that we have acted accordingly, and since we have identified you, we have done certain amendments to your addresses indicated in our database.
Okay, so it looks like we're out of time. I think that we've basically covered pretty much everything, unless I missed one or two which were slightly overlapping with one another. So I hope that that is sufficient. And if there is something that you still would like to ask, feel very free. But as expressed, please use our Telegram chat to do that. And then we will be happy to answer further questions. I do want to say once again, in spite of the fact that the hard cap nominally as a number has been reached, it's still, I hope you understand, non-conclusive. And this is why we're encouraging you to continue to participate if you haven't done so yet, and if you are interested, because again, the results at the end of the day can be very different than what it looks like supposedly at first glance now, since again, we do have that filter system, and we still have time for people to come in and be counted. So please take note of that and try if you're interested. Thanks very much for participating. We're always glad for your involvement and looking forward to seeing you soon. And in fact, I can also, I'm sure that you know this, but announce it right now that we're going to be having the next community call on the 29th. So if you haven't registered for that, please do that. Thanks very much. Take care. And see you next time.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys, for joining us today, and definitely thank you for your support. This is very valuable to us.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.